The speaker for today is Aerin Christensen. Aerin is an alumni of the political science department. She graduated from BYU, and then she worked at the Libertas Institute, which is a think tank in Utah. And following that, she went to law school at BYU, and then she clerked at the Utah Court of Appeals. Is that true?
That's right.
And then after clerking at the Utah Court of Appeals, she now has a job at a law firm, Parr Brown, which is in Salt Lake City. And some interesting facts about her is that since the first time that I met her, she was interested in like specific issues about land rights and the protection of land rights. And now today, as a lawyer who has way more power and status than I have at that time that I met her, she still works on those very same issues. Another thing that's interesting about Aerin Christensen is that when people who are my colleagues at other schools ask me what it's like to teach at BYU, there's 4 things that I tell them about, and one of them is Aerin when she was a student here. So I'm so happy that she is back and joining us and sharing her insights about think tanks in law school and going to law school today. So thanks.
I want to know what the other 3 things are, but I guess we can do that later. How long do you want me to talk for? What's our...
plan to leave at 10 to the hour.
When are people going to start walking out so I don't feel bad about myself? Okay, great, got it.
They'll ask questions before then.
Right, okay.
My questions are there.
Got it, okay. Great, well, thank you everybody for being here. I know this is, as we've discovered, your last day of class. Not all of us knew that before today, but now we know that. And so I feel like you probably don't really have to be here, but you are, and so I'm going to take it as a personal compliment to me that you are here, regardless of whether or not you need to be here for some other reason that's unrelated. I feel like I have, well, before I say that, I guess I'll start by saying I've done this presentation like a handful of times, I think 2 or 3 for this series. Nothing special about it. The thing that's special about this year is that this year, as opposed to the other years, 3 of my family members now attend BYU in some capacity or other. And so this year, the picture of the lecture series with my name on it got circulated on my family group chat, even though like no one ever cared before that I was doing this, but my mom's here today because it was circulated this time. So if you all weren't here, it's okay, my mom's here. I can just do this presentation for her. So it's great, biggest supporter. Okay, I feel like is it okay if I step away from the mic? Does that matter for like recording purposes? Does it matter for all of you? Can you all still hear me? Okay, I like to wander, so okay, great. Thank you for the thumbs up. Good to know. I have done, I think, several of the things that people do after graduating with a PoliSci degree, and so I'm happy to talk about any and all of those, but this presentation is really only helpful in so much as it is helpful for you. So if you have questions along the way, we can do questions at the end, but if you want to stop me at any point and talk about something or question me on something or argue about something, just raise your hand and let me know, and I'm happy to do that. I don't want to be talking about something that you've already heard extensively about this semester or that you don't care about. If there's stuff that you have concerns about that you actually want to talk about and that would help you in your actual real life. So feel free to redirect me and ask me questions as we go. Before I dive in, this is a little bit about me. This is my favorite slide because every year I do this presentation, I get to update my cute picture right here. So like Professor Davis said, I graduated from the BYU PoliSci department in 2020. Then I worked for a year and a half as a registered lobbyist here in Utah at the Utah legislature. And then I went back to school at BYU to go to law school and then clerked on the Court of Appeals, and now I work at a law firm in Salt Lake. I'm also married to a double BYU grad, so we have 4 BYU degrees between the 2 of us because we just can't get enough of BYU. It's just the greatest place ever, and if you don't think that, then that's too bad. I'm the one at the microphone. So we have 4 BYU degrees. It's a lot of fun. I'm from Utah, born and raised, and now I am the mom to 2 cute girls. I'm pretty sure in the time you've known me, I've got married and had 2 kids, so that's another fun fact that we can add to that background. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about policy and a little bit about law school, but first, something that I want to just like touch base with you all on is that the fact that you're here means that you guys are pretty privileged. Like you are living a great life, and you have a lot of options and you have a lot of potential. A lot of people in the world don't get to like ask themselves like, what is the life that I want to live? What do I want to be doing? What do I want my day-to-day to look like? I think because you're here, you probably have at least some capacity to ask that question. And so before you get too far down any road, I want you to look ahead and kind of think about what it is that you want your life to look like 5 years from now, when you're graduated, or 10 years from now. Obviously, that's not like a really innovative thing that I'm telling you to do, like think about your life in the future. But I want you to take it seriously for a second, because I think it's really easy to, get caught up in where you are right now, but that is going to lead you to a certain kind of life, and I don't want you to get to that life at the end of everything you're doing and say like, I should have thought about this before. I should have listened to Aerin. I don't know that I want to live this kind of. I don't know that I want to be working in New York City from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. and et cetera, et cetera. So ask yourself some questions about like what you want to do. Like, and they'll do this at law school. We do this, talk about, what do you want your life to look like? And there's a couple things you can think about. So first, I have on here like geography. Where do you want to live? Are you a city person? Are you a country person? Do you want to live on 50 acres of land out in the middle of nowhere? We're going to have to think about where you're going to be able to afford 50 acres of land if that's the case. Do you want to live in Utah? Something that I didn't realize until I was pretty far down the road is that I actually want to live in Utah. And it took living in DC and moving around to realize personally am very invested in the state of Utah, and I want to be here and raise my family here. That impacts and seriously impacted my career decisions. So think about that. Also think about what you like doing. This isn't the end all be all consideration, but it is something to consider when you're deciding what to do. Do you like working with people? Do you want to have a job where you're with people 24/7? Do you like sitting in a cold, dark room, reading and writing all day and never seeing another human being? Do you like traveling? What is it that you like doing? And then in addition to that, what is it that you're good at? Unfortunately, those are not always the same thing. So it's good to consider what am I good at? What value do I bring? What value can I provide in any sort of scenario? So think about both those things. Obviously, what is your family situation? Are you a single person that just can do whatever you want? Are you married and you need to plan around another person or another multiple persons? Do you want to be married in the future but aren't right now? All of those things could potentially impact your career decisions and what your path is going to look like. And then finally, I think it's important to consider how you can do good. We are at BYU. If you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you, at some level, should be prepared to consecrate your life to Heavenly Father, to God, to Jesus Christ. And so I think it's important to consider, what are you going to be doing? What kind of success are you going to find in that field? And is it going to allow you to do good and to give and to be the kind of person that you want to be when it comes to, altruism and all the things that you could be doing for other people? So those are a couple things to think about. I think it's really easy to get locked in on one of these things and think well, I just want to make $1 million a year, which is great if that's what you want to do. Love that for you. But I think you ought to also probably consider how that's going to impact other parts of your life. Everything's a balance. There's trade-offs. So I just want you to think about that. Ponder. We'll come back to it. Actually, we won't come back to it in this particular hour that we have, but you will come back to it several times over the course of your life. So it's going to be important. Okay, so I'm going to start chronologically. The first thing I did after graduating was work at a think tank. It's called Libertas Institute. It still is. I guess it's still called that, even though I don't work there anymore. It doesn't cease to exist just because I'm not there. And if you majored in PoliSci because you like politics and policy, then this might be a good path for you. This might be the direction you want to go. I like to say, let's see if this is, yeah. I like to say that think tanks and the policy world are kind of the best kept secret of PoliSci, because tell me if you guys feel this way. Maybe you don't feel this way. Maybe it was just me. When I was in PoliSci, I really felt professors, people in the world, people at school were well, this is a fun degree, but you can't actually work in this field. There's not actually any work that you can do in this field. And that's not true. Like, everybody wants you to think that, like, there's nothing that you can do with this degree in the policy field, that you're going to have to, like, pivot. And that's a lie. I don't know why people are telling that lie. I don't know, like, who it's benefiting to tell that lie, but it's out there. Do you guys feel that way, or do you feel like you're, like, well accustomed with all of your career options? Okay. I guess that was a poorly phrased question because I'm seeing head shakes. I don't know if that means yes or no to my question. It doesn't matter. The point is, I felt like that, and I'm here to tell you that's not the case. And it was a really great opportunity. I really loved working at a think tank. If you like researching, like, I got to just research and write a lot. In that way, it's kind of like academia, but for, like, the poor man's academia. Like, if you don't want to go through, like, the years and years of grad school that you'd have to do to go into academia, then you kind of, like, this is a little fun shortcut for child's play, I guess. You get to advocate for policy for things that you care about, usually. Like Professor Davis said, I worked on a lot of property rights issues that were really important to me and are really important to me, and they led me to my later decisions. And you get to, like, influence real change in the world, which is a really cool thing to do. So it is really cool, and it is a real option. Here's my slide of it's a real option. These are organizations that, like, that I know people that work at or have worked at, and that you could work at just in Utah. And it's not even all of the ones in Utah anymore. So, like, just know there are a lot of places where you can go and do policy work. You could be a lobbyist, you could be a research fellow, a lot of options that you can look into. Those are Utah ones. If you're, like, once you're talking about, like, moving to DC, the whole world opened. Like, there are so many policy options, so many opportunities that you could work in. So just know there are options and there are places where you actually can do policy work. It's a real thing. It's not a lie. I don't know why that was so frustrating. Like, we have a whole degree for political science, and it just seems like no one's talking about, like, what this looks like. So that's just my soapbox on that side. Does anybody have any questions about the policy world or that aspect of it, or working at think tanks or policy in Utah or elsewhere? Thoughts on that, or just comments? Yes.
Talk to you after. I'm just, like, curious how policies work with like, working at the Hill, like, how that works with different organizations. Like, how is it actually implemented, and is it more worth it to get involved in, like, the organizations that kind of implement them, or the departments that implement them?
I don't know if I understand your question, but I will start talking, and that's okay. I will start talking and see if it answers your question, and you stop me and say, like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. So yeah, there's a couple different ways to look at this, right? There's think tanks and policy organizations that are lobbying and advocating for certain policies at the Utah legislature. I can speak to Utah specifically because that's where I worked, but this is also to some extent true of other states and of DC. There are private organizations that will lobby at the legislature. So on this slide, like Libertas, AFP, Eagle Forum, Sutherland, most of these are organizations that have lobbyists. They have research people that have lobbyists who are registered to lobby on the Hill at the Utah Capitol, and they'll do research year round and work with the interest groups, and then during the legislative session they'll go and work with legislators to write laws and to pass them. So your other option, I think this is what you're saying, is, like, I have the state senate seal up here too, because, like, you could alternatively just, like, work for the government. You could work for the state senate. I have a good friend who, she did the internship. Raise your hand if you've done the Utah legislature internship. Anybody in here? Okay, sort of.
I just got it, so I'm doing it.
Okay, congratulations. So exciting. Highly recommend. I didn't do it. I wish that I had done it, because then I, like, went in to be a lobbyist with all those legislators that I could have been working with as a student. So I kind of had to play catch up a little bit. So that's another alternative, though. Like, you can work directly for the legislature in Utah or for other government entities in Utah. Does that help your question? What's your follow-up question to that? You don't have to have a follow-up.
You're so true, because I totally forgot, like, this is, like, lobbyists and think tanks. But I think I'll save them for after,
Okay.
like, understanding how policies, like, implemented.
Okay, got it. Okay, follow-up. Yes, back here.
So is this something, so, like, working with these organizations, is that something really after, because you mentioned the Utah legislature internship?
Yeah.
Yes, is this, like, working directly under these organizations or any one of these organizations? Is that something, like, after you get the degree, or is that something you could do now?
So probably both. So what I'm saying is like all of these places have full-time positions that they are looking to fill that like you could work for after you graduated. These places also all probably have, several of them I know have internships that you could like work for as a student. That's true of all of like the think tanks and policy organizations, but also like the Senate. Like you can go do the internship at the Utah legislature, but they also have full-time positions that they are looking to fill from people with degrees. I say that, but like famously, the person who runs Libertas Institute hates college degrees and he thinks they're worthless and stupid. And so like he hired me right before I got my degree and I like finished up my degree. But honestly, he probably would have liked me more if I like had just stopped going to college because that's kind of a niche opinion. But it's becoming more popular. So I don't know. It depends on how you feel about college degrees. Yes and no. These people are looking to hire great people who are passionate about issues and ready to advocate and look for change in Utah. Yes.
Do you have any recommendations for like matching an interest group or with a think tank? Because I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of things that are available.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily always align with like,
Totally.
but it's hard to like, especially with DC where there's a million. It's hard to. I don't know if there's like a website or something I could go to be like, these are my favorite issues. This is like where I'm at politically. This is what I'm comfortable advocating for. And then there's like.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great question because that is so true. The interesting thing about policy is like it's not like any corporate job and that like any corporation will do. Like you want to be working on issues that you care about and that you're passionate about. And like all of these have very different political tilts and leanings, and so that's an important question. Unfortunately, there's not an easy answer. I would say two things. The first is just it's really like a matter of networking. I think like if you know the people that are passionate about those things and care about those issues, you can find more people who care about those things and they will be able to point you in the right direction. Yeah.
What do you feel like are the like pros and cons of accepting a position with a place where you're not necessarily like strongly against what they advocate for, but like you just don't care? Like the other day I applied for like a clean energy.
Yeah.
Not that I don't care about clean energy, but it's just like I don't really know much about.
Yeah, it's not like your thing.
Do you feel like there's benefits to taking those kind of positions just to like learn and experience and put on your resume, or if you should really just try to get involved with those that you feel like fit you?
I think there can be a benefit. I think it probably depends. It's probably really case by case because if it's like an internship in DC and it's an opportunity to get out there and like meet people and find the people in places that you really want to be, then like that could be worth it just for the networking alone and the opportunity to be there. I would say I think like yeah, work is always going to be more fulfilling if you can find something that like really matches your preferences and your passion and your interests, but like you can't always do that. So I think you do have to consider the pros and cons of any option. Yeah, I wish there was like an easy website. There should be that you can just like plug in what you're interested in. You could always ask ChatGPT and then like Google if the thing they said is a real place. It might not be, but it could be, and that could point in the right direction. But I think the better answer is the human answer, which is just to meet people and be in places where those people are, and they'll point you in the right direction. Yeah, another question?
This might be kind of ironic after what you said previously about college degrees, but in the think tank world, is graduate education valued at all, expected with JDs, MPAs, MPPs?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was going to ask this question myself because last time I did this presentation, somebody was like, well, I asked a guy in DC and he said, no one wants to hire you till you have a graduate degree. And I was like, okay. That sounds like a mean guy to talk to. Yeah. All I'm saying is, like, I know people without degrees and with undergraduate degrees that work at these places. Like, that's all I can tell you. I think yes and no. I think absolutely in DC there's going to be some positions where it's like, we're looking for someone with a master's in public policy and whatever, right? I think that absolutely exists, which is why, like, going back a couple slides, it's important to know, like, what's your end game? Because, yes, you could spend time getting another degree. Like, I did that. I'm not going to advocate against that necessarily. But at the same time, like, I have a really good friend who, she just got her undergraduate degree, and she worked for the state senate for a little bit, and now she's the chief of staff at one of these organizations because, like, she was able to make way more progress just with, like, her goodwill and, like, working with people because people love her than with another degree. So, yes and no. Again, like, I think it depends on where you want to go. Yeah, like, if you want to practice law, like, yeah, you probably need a law degree, right? Like, that's just, but if we're talking, like, the policy world, I just think there's way more wiggle room because, like, if people love you and, like, people know you're great to work with, I just don't think they're going to care as much if, like, you have the right degree. Is that bad? Am I not allowed to say that when I'm speaking out of college? Okay. Okay. I feel like I had something else to say about this. Maybe it was just that I was going to rebut that guy from a year ago who asked that question, who I'm still thinking about. But yes, graduate degrees can be awesome, but also maybe not always necessary 100% of the time. So yeah, thus ends my rant about how there are actual options to work in policy. It's a real thing. Oh, I was going to do another raise of hands. Has anybody done the Washington seminar? Okay, so that one I did do. I think that's I think that is like one of the best things BYU has to offer. So highly recommend. Oh, and I was going to say, and answer your question, the Washington seminar has like a database of you're already there. Okay, I know what you're talking about because like. Okay, thanks. I know I was in that same boat of like looking on their database and being like, do I care about clean energy? Like, no. Do I want to go to DC? Yes. So yeah, toss up. Lots of great questions. So gotta weigh it individually. Yeah. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about law school. I am such a shill for law school. They should pay me more than they do, which is nothing. I love law school. I think it's so fun. I think it's the best thing ever. This is my testament to that. I love law school so much that I made it look like so much fun that my father, who I mentioned before because now he's going to BYU, he's going to BYU Law School because I made it look like so much fun that he has to go because he felt so left out. And you're all going to feel that way after my spiel because it's the best. Did he need to go to law school? No, he like has no need for a second career or anything. He's just like bored and jealous of all the fun I was having. So honestly, I don't know how he's feeling. Like, is he having a good time? Okay, good. I'm like, I feel really bad that I like forced him to go to law school and like maybe he hates it now and he's never gonna speak to me again. I don't know. We can't waste time thinking about these things. Who knows? Maybe your dad hates you. Maybe he doesn't. Okay. So law school, like I have a lot of thoughts about law school because there's a lot of kind of misconceptions or just like, not misconceptions, beliefs that I think are wrong or unhelpful. So I think a lot of people see law school as like, I'm going to law school because I'm going to be rich. And do I have this on here? Oh, or like another one that I don't have on here is like, I'm going to law school because my dad is a lawyer and he's rich and I want to be not like him, but I want to be rich like him, so I'm going to law school. That's fine, like those things may all be true. I do not think that's a good reason to go to law school. And I say that because like you see those people at law school and they seem like they're not having a good time because had they considered like, do I like doing the things you have to do in law school, they probably would not have opted to go, but they were going because of this like expectation that it's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to make lots of money. That's unhelpful for that reason. It's also unhelpful because like it's also not necessarily true. Like a lot of people will leave law school and don't make a lot of money or have tons of debt and can't pay it off for years and years and years. So not necessarily true. It's also similarly on that note, not 100% automatically worth the cost necessarily. If you spend a ton of money on law school and then want to work in the policy world, like you might not be able to pay off the money you spent to go to law school, and it might not necessarily give you the skills that you really needed or wanted. But I also don't think that it's like this cutthroat nightmare classmates. There are movies, there are books about like how horrible law school is, and people are like stealing your books and like slashing your tires so you can't like make it to your test on time. That was like definitely not my experience. Maybe it differs by law school. I can only speak to BYU, obviously, but I did not find that to be true. And also, it's not like a guaranteed election to public office, though a lot of times it seems like people who are running for public office have a law degree. That's just, well, we can talk about like the correlation versus causation going on there, but not necessarily going to get you elected. The reality of law school is like it's a lot of hard work. It's full of a lot of smart people. There's lots of reading and writing involved, so if you really hate that a lot, maybe it's not going to be a good option. I say that cautiously because it's like, there's some reading that I don't enjoy. Like, you don't need to feel like there's nothing else in the world that I would rather be doing than reading case law for law school to be a good idea. Okay, but like, just know it's going to be a lot of that. So that's something to know. But I think it is tons of fun, and it is also very humbling, and you make lots of lifelong friends and connections. So yeah, those are my expectations versus reality. Like, I guess we'll get to this in a second. When in law school, like, I think some things to consider are you ready to work hard? Are you ready to, like I said, do lots of reading and writing? And are you ready to feel dumb? Because Like, I think it will put you in situations and next to people that you will feel kind of silly in those situations. You will feel dumb. My slogan for life is every time you look stupid, you get smarter. So that was very true of law school, and I looked stupid all the time. I said so many dumb things. I was just gonna like list them off for you, and then I was like, why would I do that? I already lived them once. I'm not gonna list them for you. But let's talk about chronologically what law school logistics look like. Obviously, you need to be thinking about your GPA is going to come into consideration when applying to law school. Your LSAT score will matter. Like Professor Davis mentioned, I guess you didn't mention, I thought you were going to say you were going to give advice on asking professors for letters of recommendation. That's what my brain filled in, but then you said asking them for advice. No matter. You will need letters from professors. So, like, don't get through your undergrad and then get to graduation day and think to yourself, gee, I wish I had made some personal connections with some of my professors who could speak to my work ethic and quality, because you're going to need that. So be thinking that before you graduate. I would also say, like, don't feel any rush to just, like, go to law school right after you graduate undergrad. I think it can be really beneficial to take a gap year and do something else. I think it gives you a lot of perspective to kind of go out and work in the real world before going to law school. So I don't think that puts you at any disadvantage. I would not be afraid to do that if it's something you're considering. Also be thinking about cost, obviously. Law school can be very expensive. It can also be very affordable. It can also be free if you do it right. So be thinking about that before you get there and are forced to make a decision you don't want to make. We already talked about during law school, but then think about after law school. Think about, like, are you going to the life after law school? Like I said, love law school. Wish I could just live in law school forever and ever, perpetually. I cannot. Luckily, I also really like the life after law school. Some people do not, and they get to that point, and it's a big bummer. So think about that. But also know there are a lot of options. Like, it's not a degree where it's just you go to law school and then you have to work at a law firm. You can work at a law firm. You can be a practicing attorney. You can also do public interest work. You can do policy work. A lot of people are looking for policy professionals with a law degree. So that's an option. BYU refers to it as, like, JD advantage jobs, where it's an advantage to have a JD, but you don't need one. There's a lot that you can do with a law degree that's not just practicing law. So know that, like, you're not getting boxed into any corner by going to law school, but also consider, like, if it's going to be really costly to go to law school and you're doing something you don't necessarily need a law degree for, you might want to consider that as well. Okay, those are the basics of my law school spiel. What's my next? Oh, bunch of advice. I guess I'll stop here for any questions, and then we can do that. Questions about so far what I've said? I feel like I haven't sold it enough. I'm not seeing the excitement in your eyes that my father has. Like, I need to pitch it better. Yes.
Gaining kind of like connections for law school or during or after, what is the best way to maintain those, even if you're not in, like, really constant contact with them?
That is such a good question. And I almost gave a presentation just, like, entirely on this topic. But I didn't, and here's why. There's a part to this presentation that I don't have a slide for anymore, about, like, your greatest assets really are the people and the connections that you make. Like, that's true of undergrad. I think that's true of your whole life, like, the people and the connections that you have. I think the problem is, and the reason that I didn't make this a presentation is because, like, you never want to be treating people as a means to an end. Like, those connections have to be an end in and of themselves. People can tell if you're just talking to them because it's like, I'm hoping to get a job through you one day. Like, people can tell. That's not, like, a hard thing to tell. You have to just be, like, invested in people genuinely and authentically. And, like, that's not something that you can, the reason it's not in this lecture is because, like, that's not something you can lecture on. Like, I wanted to give a presentation about all the people that I met in undergrad and how awesome they're doing and how successful they are. But that's, like, the wrong message, because I don't want you to be like, you should make friends with the people around you because one day they're going to be the chief of staff in Mike Lee's office. Like, that's not what you want, right? You want to be making those connections because you love those people and care about them genuinely. And so that's, like, not an easy answer, because, like, I wish, personally, for my personality, I wish the answer was, like, put on a rotation, a magic thank you card that goes out every 6 months to those people to remind them that you love them and that they are good people. But that's not it, because, like, that's very much means to an end and not ends in and of themselves. So people are ends in and of themselves. That's my soapbox on that. I feel like it's not really going to answer your question, but it is just to validate your question that, like, yes, you're thinking along the right lines, because like those people and those connections you make are going to be the most important thing. I wish there was a better way to like keep up those connections when you have no good reason to reach out to those people. I guess send Christmas cards, that's a good one, but it's hard to send Christmas cards as a single person, like super awkward. It makes a lot more sense when you have like, when it's like, look at my cute baby, and like you send those pictures, but like it would be weird if it was just like, hello, Merry Christmas from me. Yes. Is it about Christmas cards? I hope so.
No.
Okay.
Even Christmas cards.
Oh,
So.
okay.
Well, they're just so expensive.
Okay.
I'll just send a text, I feel like. But anyways,
That's great. That's great too. Texts are great too.
what is the lowest GPA of like one of your classmates at law school? But for applying, like if you can remember, because I feel like a lot of people might be like, I would like to go to law school, but I just haven't really invested that much in my GPA, and GPA is like a really big thing.
Yeah.
I just didn't apply.
So I'll give you a really mini version. I think you should always apply. I think you should apply broadly, and you should think about where you could get in and where you want to be. I'll give you, if you guys have been to like law school lectures, you'll know this, but like the series the admissions office gives is they have buckets. They'll talk about their buckets, and so they have like above median GPA and above median LSAT, above median GPA but below median LSAT, the reverse of those things, and then like below for both. And so like obviously your chances are going to be better if you are in the bucket of like I have a high LSAT score and a high GPA, yes. But if you happen to have a low GPA, that's not like you're out of luck, and there's a lot of reasons why that's the case. First of all, you can get a really good LSAT score. Second of all, you're a human being with a story that you can tell, and that can be compelling, and so like they want to hear from you, and they're invested in who you are as a person, not just the numbers of you. Also, if it's like law schools will treat it differently if you have like a low GPA and a really difficult subject. Molecular biology comes to mind because I don't know what that means. So like maybe they would think that's like, oh yeah, that explains why you'd have low GPA compared to maybe something else where it's like, oh, you got a 4.0, but you majored in your mission language. There's some law professors who think it's really lame to major in your mission language. I'm sorry if any of you are majoring in your mission language. But does that make sense? Like it's a holistic approach. It's not like a cutoff. At least the BYU admissions office has told me. They could be lying, and other law schools could be different, but like there's no GPA that they look at and they're like, nope, that's too low, we'll pass. And yeah, like it's all different. My dad, for example, has a GPA that's pretty low, but it's also from 30 years ago. So like you're a whole person, they're invested and interested in who you are as a person. I don't know if I could recall some of my classmates' low GPAs, but I know they're like accepting people with low GPAs. I know that's a thing. So like don't count yourself out by any means if you're feeling that way. That was good of you to ask that question for the friend in the class that was too stressed to ask it. So, yes.
Because it says like don't be afraid to take a gap year, and I know a lot more people are doing that. What if like I feel like I would have a fear that like a professor would forget kind of my work, even if I remind them, like it's just like maybe not, I won't get as strong of a letter of rec. And then like for your dad, if you wait like a decade, who do you get to write?
Yeah, we should have had my dad come do this lecture. That would have been way more fun. He actually has a class until in 5 minutes, so it wouldn't have worked. I would say like make those connections now, and you can bring that up with professors now. And say like, hey, I'm thinking about applying to law school, like, would you be willing to write a letter of recommendation? They don't have to necessarily write it right that second. Some people who write letters of recommendation wait until the very last second to write them. Just kidding. Like, so they might not write it. That's not I'm sorry. It's not a character flaw. It's an example of like, you can ask them now and bring that up and say, hey, I'm looking to apply to law schools. Would you be willing to? And if you get that connection of like, if you get them to say like they'd be willing to write you, it's not going to be so like out of pocket for you to reach back out in 6 months and say like, hey, it's me again. I feel like professors are operating on like longer timelines, so it's not weird to like for someone to reach out to a year later. Like sometimes they don't see students in a year between classes. I don't know. Do you have more insights on that?
We'll remember Miriam.
Okay. You will be remembered. So no worries. Okay. Other questions? We can go to my advice box, and then I'm sure that will spur more questions. Oh, my dad, I don't know what his letters were. I think he had some professional colleagues write him letters because I think all his professors are dead. Is that true?
Yeah, he was in real estate.
He had some of his good
Yeah.
big buddies.
You can get creative. Seems a little unfair that he had his besties write him letters of recommendation, but
Does it say that they're supposed to be professors that write it? I thought it was supposed to be something you read.
I don't know, TBD on that one. Yes, you work at the law school, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say
I was gonna say there's a mole here. She's spying on my information. So you tell us the truth.
so at the like incoming 1L, like whatever they do at the beginning, they put up all these statistics of who they accepted, and the average GPA was relatively high this year just because of the government hiring freeze. But I think the lowest GPA was like I want to say it was a 2.9.
I was gonna say 2.7, which would track. That's because that's for this class. I was gonna say my class 2.7 maybe, but
Right. And so like, and they were talking about how this class is some of the like best that they've had, and like it's statistically way off the chart. But
Yeah.
that's still like it's a 2 point.
yeah.
Right. And so and it really has of some of my friends that are at the law school that I've made there, like a lot of their undergrad degrees have no bearing on how they've done in law school.
Totally.
Right. And so some of them were in like hard sciences, decided they want to go into law, and then they were like, I'm going to do patent law and make
Yeah.
$1 billion. They're like, actually, I really just want to work for a nonprofit about immigration rights.
Yeah.
Like, I found my place, right? And some, like, my uncle went to BYU Law. He went because he thought he was going to make a lot of money. And when I talked to him about going to law school, I was in the middle of a legal problem. He's like, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? And I was like, no. He's like, yeah, I wish someone had asked me that too. So, like,
Yeah.
you should think that you really want to go and do law.
Yeah. So like, and that's why I ask those questions, because like I agree. There are so many people who it's like I went to law school because I thought I was gonna make $1 million, or because like I need to support my family, and then they hate it, and they like hate their lives, and they hate going to work every day, and it's like, first of all, is that worth it? Second of all, was that really your only option to support your family? No, it is not your only option. So let's like think about our options, take a breath for 1 second, to your uncle, because I agree. But I will also say, like, I am having a great time. Like, I loved law school and I love practice so far. So like, I'm also a little bit annoyed by like there's this weird hazing thing that like old lawyers do, mostly like old male lawyers who are like, don't go to law school, it's the worst. If you call like any of these old men who are in law, they'll be like, oh, I hate law school, I hate my life, don't go. And it's like, well, do something different with your life. Like, what are you doing? That's so weird of you to like be doing something full time that you hate. Like, stop it. I hate that. So like, I'll just say, those people totally exist, and they also make me so mad. Like, I assumed when I graduated, someone was going to show up with a scepter and be like, okay, blood oath, you have to tell everyone that you hate your life and to not go to law school. And they never showed up. So I can keep telling people that I love law school and it's the best thing ever. But like, you would think that these people committed to just like tell everyone they hate their lives the way they do. It bugs me so much. That's all to say. Some people are having a great time. Like, some people love it. I'm having a great time. So I don't know when like the hating part starts, but I'll send you a newsletter when it does. Yes.
Did you enjoy taking in the PoliSci department? Because I feel like then I can gauge whether I'll also like law school.
Oh my gosh, I have an exercise for this very purpose. So maybe pause on that question, we'll come around to it. Let me run through this advice really fast. I think we already did this. Things you can do. Take a gap year, sit in on a class if you want to, or talk to current law students. I would say invest in an LSAT prep course. My husband did the calculations, like the highest paying job I will ever have was studying for the LSAT, because the amount of money I made back in scholarships and stipends for the hours that I spent studying was like off the charts. So that's well worth it. You don't have to like have worked at a law firm to go to law school. That's also a misconception. We talked about like you want to give the admissions committee a holistic picture of who you are. That's what they care about. And then obviously like try to submit your application by the school's priority deadline. Those are some thoughts about advice, just generally. We're running out of time. Yes.
I would also say some law schools don't require the LSAT.
Yes, this is a great point. I mentioned LSAT before and said like maybe that would be helpful, because like BYU you can go to.
My friend just got in and she didn't even take the GRE.
Yeah.
They accepted her like ACT scores.
Yeah, BYU has a specific program for that. They'll take your BYU GPA and your ACT score. I have one of my friends who's a 3L. She's like top of the class, and she didn't even take the LSAT, which feels kind of like, personally, I thought the LSAT was also fun. But they took away the game section, which was the funnest part, so maybe it wouldn't be as fun anymore. So maybe you should try to get in without the LSAT. That's possible. Okay, we are almost out of time anyway, so I guess we'll not do my fun exercise. We'll just wrap it up here. So instead of doing a fun exercise, I will say you might like law school if you like philosophy, like political philosophy classes, I think that's a good sign. Law school is a lot of like problem solving. It's a lot of looking at, okay, you know what, we're just gonna do it. Sorry, forget it. We'll do it in 2 minutes. This is like basically what you do in law school over and over again, just in different variations. So like this is a little hypothetical. People love to say, here's a hypothetical in law school. It's a fun thing they do. There's also probably a blood oath about that apparently. So let's say a town and it creates a law that says no vehicles in the park. Okay, got it? That's the hypothetical. Here's the facts. John lives on one side of the town and works on the other side. He shaves off 10 minutes of his commute if he drives through the park. He's been doing this a lot. Has John violated the law? Raise your hand for yes. That's it? I'm going too fast. The law is no vehicles in the park. You were talking when I was doing the hypothetical. That's your problem. You gotta focus. This is the law school. Okay. No vehicles in the park. John is cutting through the park in his car. Breaking the law? Raise your hand for yes. Easy. Go to law school. Okay, next one. There are many trash barrels which people may deposit litter in. Recently, the sanitation department has been entering the park with trash trucks to collect the trash. Have they violated the law? Raise your hand for yes. Oh. Where did I lose? Why did I lose 50% of my people? Someone make an argument for why they violated the law. Let's hear it. Did you raise your hand? You did. You said law violators? Okay, I got it back here. Go.
Well, if they said vehicles, and that's what the law says, and those trucks are vehicles, so they violate.
Yeah, sorry, trash trucks. Okay, someone make an argument for no violation.
Theoretically, if they're like for government entities, perhaps there was a provision for that.
Yeah, governments can't break the law. Ha. Boom. Okay, next. Police officers are chasing a suspected bank robber. They cut through the park in their police car. Raise your hand for yes, violate the law. We got two strong. Okay, what's your argument for yes, violate the law?
It's a vehicle.
Sorry, it's the law. Okay, what's your argument for no violation?
There's already lots of laws about how police cars are special and how it chases.
Okay, but everyone's like making arguments like, well, it's probably in the law, but what if it's not in the law? I'm telling you, like, the law does not have an exception. Then does it change? Are you all gonna say like, yes, okay, if there's no exception to the law? No? Okay, what's your no? That was a very no.
Well, because you can make an argument that, that doesn't have to be in the law because it's common sense.
It's an emergency.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, love it. We could go on. We could just keep doing this forever is the point of this whole thing. All to say, if the last 2 minutes of that was not the worst 2 minutes of your life, you might like law school. Okay, that was kind of rusty, guys. That was a rusty pitch. Clearly, it's been a while since my dad was persuaded to go to law school, but I had a great time. I think you could consider it. I'm sorry we're out of time. I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any follow-up, but there's so many fun things you can do with a PoliSci degree is the point of this whole thing. So thanks for coming, and you guys are awesome. That's all.